Stage lighting. Okay. Church history, the final portion of Lecture 6. This is number 3. On page 5, we've got pictures, so relax, those that only can look at pictures. New emphasis on spirituality. So this is another point of their Counter-Reformation. This is the weird part, to finish things off. A final aspect of Roman Catholic Counter-Reformation was a new emphasis on spirituality. Oh, that's good. Rome has always been able to adapt and conform herself to the need of the hour. And she's been around controlling things for 1,500 plus years. When threatened by those who preach godly living, she began to preach a Romanized variety of godly living. It is important to understand that whatever Rome does, she corrupts with her heresies. And this is true of its form of spirituality. So here's some things that happen, just in a kind of overview. Someone read number 1, just number 1 part.
Some new orders and groups were formed during this time within the Catholic Church by those who focused more on experiential religion and holy living.
As we go through this, think about anything that's out there today that seems to match up with this. But so experiential religion, experiences. The Capuchins were formed in 1528, and they are a band with a lead singer and 2 drummers. Whoever they are. This is part of the history here. The Order of the Theatines, formed in 1524, focused on challenging priests to holiness, according to the Catholic definition. Some might say, well, great. The Ursulines, formed in 1535, was an order of women who cared for the sick and needy and the nurture of girls. Hey, sounds nice. 2. There were movements of reform within the Roman Catholic Church in the 16th and 17th centuries that were allowed for a time, but eventually were condemned, even though their adherents remained committed Catholics. Okay, well, here's one. Quietism. That's my favorite. In any type of like homeschool setting or Sunday school with kids, we're going to practice quietism. Quietism, well, this was a focus on meditation, on achieving a passive state of mind whereby one's every thought becomes united with God. Well, okay. 3 influential writers within this movement were Michael Molinas, Madame Guyon, and Francis Fenelon. The movement led by Cornelius Jansen. Jansenism, you ever hear of that? Jansenism, I have. Well, here's an example. The Jansenists were committed to the teaching of Augustine of Hippopotamuses, with its mixture of truth and error. His spirituality stressed celibacy and monastic practices. Yeah, that's what husband wife they'll call to, okay. 3. There is a renewed emphasis on Catholic mysticism. Mysticism has been defined as the immediate feeling of the unity of the self with God, and also as the complete union of the soul with God. It emphasizes experience over faith in the Scriptures. Are there groups out there today that seem to practice kind of this mysticism?
Yeah. Charismatics.
Yeah. Charismatic types. That's not an official grouping of people, but charismatics, and there's the charismatic influence in many of the denominations.
Even New Age.
New Age, right? Experience, something, the paranormal, the weird, the new. Examples of Catholic mysticism. Well, this guy on the left is that's the Jansen guy on the left there. The guy on the right is who? Known as the Black Pope. Ignatius Loyola. So, Spiritual Exercises by Ignatius Loyola. Those are books you can get to be really helpful to you. No. The Writings of Teresa of Avila. The Writings of Madame Guyon. Imitation of Christ by Thomas Kempis. And this 4th section contains meditations on the Mass and teaches work salvation. Catholic mysticism emphasizes the surrender of oneself to the Catholic Church without reservation. So in dealing with this, what's the Catholic Church trying to do here, or did try to do? To adapt. So there were the Protestants, that group was doing what? And they had to counter.
Converting a lot of people.
Okay, so there's a spirituality. People actually talking about God and having experiences with God, which Catholics wouldn't really do. Not much of. So they tried to have this also in their own forced, wicked, and satanically controlled way, I might add. Well, one of the types of prayer taught by Madame, there we go, by Madame Guyon was a form of meditation whereby the soul is allegedly emptied of all self-desire and interest and passively awaits possession by God. Now, does that sound okay to you?
That sounds like New Age.
Yeah.
To many people might say, yeah, let's push everything aside and wait for God to possess me. Well, very dangerous. This is very similar to Hinduism,
Yes.
what they practice there, in New Age, yeah. In Catholic mysticism, the object of meditation and affection is often Mary and the saints. The Rosary, for example, the most prominent form of Catholic spirituality, is largely a prayer to
Mary.
Yeah. The writings of Madame Guyon are extremely popular among evangelicals, charismatics, and ecumenicists. You know, today, if you went into Christian bookstore, so-called, you might see some of these writings, because ancient Catholic spiritists, or these type of mystics, their books are coming back in popularity. And as we close out, are you ready to close this out?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, thank you. Concluding thoughts about Catholic spirituality. Number one, the foundational problem with the Catholic practice of spirituality is that it is not rooted in the Scriptures. In Catholic spirituality, the religious experience matters more than the truth. And be careful out there, and even in this church, for going with experience, regardless of what the Bible says. And that's where we get into the tongues and the sign gifts. Dear friends, and many of them Christians, I believe, practicing that, I've talked to, and we've dealt with the Scriptures on it. They, in my view, are not willing to put aside that experience and saying that it wasn't of God. And this whole life they've led dealing with that experience, they would rather continue with that than to believe what the Bible clearly says. The experience matters more than the truth. 2, someone read that.
The ecumenical movement today is adopting the old Catholic forms of spirituality. Many evangelicals are turning to the Roman Catholic styles of spirituality, such as ritualistic, root prayers, chanting, meditation, and the daily office.
Thank you, Brother Eric. So, what we have here is, some interesting thing like chanting. We have our Native Americans at the graduations chanting, I don't know what it is. It's probably not like peace, love, and joy. Am I prejudiced?
No.
I have great concerns about bringing out Native American spiritism and promoting it and forcing it upon us, shoving it down our throats. Go ahead.
What's the daily office?
That's that show.
Yeah.
It is this little thing you go through. That's the Stations of the Cross, but it's something like that. I don't know. I'm no expert on Catholicism. On a visit to Golden Gate Theological Seminary, Southern Baptist, by the way, in 2000, Brother Cloud noticed that most of the required reading for the course on classics of church devotion are books by Roman Catholic authors. So you got Loyola in there. The Cloud of the Unknowing by some monk. New Seeds of Contemplation by Thomas Merton. Confessions of St. Augustine. The Imitation of Christ. Selected works of Bernard of Clairvaux. Clairvoyance? And The Interior Castle by Teresa of Avila. So these are these mystic writers. And closing there, you can see this picture here, trying to show you updated Catholicism in America. You got the old form there of the guy wearing his little clown suit. Really a demon suit. And then this kind of charismatic style picture. There at one of these websites. You can type in charismatic and Catholic. Get ready for some fun pictures. They had some with the ladies dancing at the church services, and they were kind of doing this type of thing, dancing with each other. And, it wasn't a video, it was just pictures. I chuckled. 3. In its ecumenical efforts today, the Roman Catholic Church is becoming more
evangelical.
Yes. At least sounding more evangelical.
It is.
Really? Well, it is reading the Bible in these Catholic churches in America and having the Mass in the common language. And its priests are preaching.
That's right.
Does this sound good to you?
No,
No. You don't know if you can trust it.
Why wouldn't it be good to you?
because they've always conformed to the masses for power.
Okay, all right.
Preaching the gospel.
Okay,
Because they're chameleons.
chameleons, yeah. Well,
Is that right?
my view is that kind of what you're saying is that it's going to get more people in than would be otherwise if it was the liturgy, the Latin Mass that no one can understand, and just kind of go through the motions thing. But it's like, hey, this is kind of like that church I went down the street. My parents are Catholic, so I went to Catholic church when I was younger. And they got a rock and roll band and all this stuff going on. I'll just go back to my parents' church. That's cool, yeah. B, there's allowing its people to have charismatic experiences, such as speaking in tongues. Allowing them to. Okay, go ahead and be possessed by a devil. You that speak in tongues out there, don't go hunt me down, but I believe a lot of it is that. That's what I believe. It's either of God or it isn't. If it's not of God, then what's going on? Is it a psychological phenomena? I think partly, a little bit, yeah. But mostly I think it's a devil involved with it. So if you speak in tongues and you're just really mad at me right now, then I wonder what's going on. If you speak in tongues and you're like, oh, that guy's, he's not right. Okay. It's a little more normal reaction. C, it is adopted contemporary styles of music that are controlled by the devil also. Thank you. I'm winning many fans. And D, it is even training its people to go out on door-to-door evangelism. This is really thought. I witnessed this at an ecumenical conference in Indianapolis in 1990, way back then. There were some 10,000 or more Catholics in attendance, and they were trained in techniques of evangelism. The problem was that the gospel they were taught to preach was heretical, and they concluded their soul-winning encounters with a prayer to Mary. Oh my, so don't be fooled by the changes you're seeing in Catholicism today. It's still the same old, wicked, satanic thing. Take a break.